Hello, everyone. Bill here. So, this episode is going to start a little bit different. First, I'm going to play a clip to give you an idea of what this episode is about, why this clip is so different. Because prior to recording, me and Alberto were sitting down having a conversation, which ended up going into him describing to me what his experiences were like. And I decided to start recording mid conversation because I thought it was very interesting stuff he was saying. And after I said, "Hey, Alberto, I recorded that bit right there. Is it okay if I air that in the episode?" And he said he was 100% okay with it. So first, I'd like to show you this off-air conversation to give you an idea of what this episode is about, what his story is.
This mask as an evidence of being a hacker, and they take that and put it in a table, take a photograph and say, we have captured, arrested a hacker, blah, 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 and they put this as an evidence in the file. It's like they had no idea what they were doing. It was all a disaster, and I don't want anybody else to live what I live, so I'm trying to make things change in the way the police investigate these kind of cases, because they're really incompetent. They lack of the knowledge to handle this in a proper way, and all they did was against the best practices in the world regarding computer-related crime investigations, computer forensics. They did everything wrong. And the worst part is that the judge and the law system trust them, and you cannot fight against so much power. They give you no attention. Even though I have a great lawyer, it's complicated. It's very complicated.
This is the Way Podcast.
The militias needed to have a heads up that I was coming.
I personally think that it, like in chess.
So that's how deep the addiction goes.
I've been incarcerated most of my life.
Having a conversation with
Bill. They've been given no option, either join or die.
Snipers, and it was a military.
The film is famously visually gorgeous.
If you want to know more about the Way Podcast, go to podcasttheway.com.
This is FM 91.7, WHUS Stores at the top of the hour. I'm your host, Bill Trofesky, and for more, be sure to go to podcasttheway.com. Again, podcasttheway.com. So today I'm sitting down with Alberto Daniel Hill, lives down in Uruguay, and has a very interesting story. If anybody's tunes into the Darknet Diaries, he was actually on episode 25. So, yep, how's that for an introduction? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Bill?
I'm doing good. Enjoying the Connecticut weather, and you're enjoying the summer Uruguay weather, you're telling me?
Absolutely, yeah. Before fall comes, I am showing the beautiful day that we have here, the temperatures, and it's been a beautiful summer, almost no rain. I can't complain.
Sounds good. Just as a background before we get into it, you're a gray hat hacker with a interesting story. So anybody listening, this is about talking to a hacker, first man to be arrested in Uruguay for hacker-related charges, and anything else you want to address before we start?
Yeah, actually, the definition of gray hat hacker, I don't define myself as gray hat hacker. I think it all depends on the way you see things. Sometimes there is a fine line between gray and black, and you can always cross the line a little, or depends on the way you see it. I mean, for example, Snowden is seen as a criminal by the USA. For the people, Snowden is a hero. So what is he, black or white? I don't know. Depends on the eyes that see the person. And in this profession, depends on every situation, every context. And I think that the end justify the means in some cases. And sometimes I might cross the line without any malicious intention, but you have to cross the line in order to do your work. And you just have to do it. And so I don't think I'm gray or white or black. I'm colorblind, by the way, but
Really?
but I'm just an information security professional, a hacker, period. I try to do things good, not to harm anything, not to cause damage, not to commit any crime. Uh, I just work in information security.
Gotcha. So you don't like the label gray hat hacker? Because I thought I saw some like past stuff where you said you called yourself a gray hat hacker, but you don't want that association with black hat hackers because of what happened. Is that it?
No, I mean that I think that was from an interview for an article, and they put that
Oh,
I
they
was
put it on you.
yeah
Oh, okay.
yeah, it wasn't me that told them that I was gray hat, because I don't like to define myself with any color of a hat.
Sounds good. All right. Yeah. Then sorry for calling you a gray hat hacker.
Sorry?
I said sorry for calling you a gray hat hacker then.
Oh, no problem, no problem. That's okay. I mean, actually, when I tell people that I'm a hacker, they always think, oh, he's a bad guy, because they associate the word hacker with bad guys, people who commit crimes. But actually, it has two definitions. You can be an ethical hacker, and you do things to protect systems, or you can be a criminal, that you're a hacker as well. You have the same knowledge, but you commit crimes, and you can be on both sides.
Yeah. Being a hacker up here in America, it gets that association with anonymous. So it gets sort of a cool association. Like if somebody's a hacker, people like to think they're cool. But at the same time, if you screw over a charity or something like that, everyone's gonna, hate you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, here in Uruguay, it's a small country. We only have 3 million people of population, and people know me, know my case, because I was in the front page of every newspaper after my arrest, and I wasn't aware of that impact. And well, I talk openly about my case. I have no problems to talk about that. Uh, and I talk to many people, and they listen to me with a lot of I don't know. It's like, wow, how did you do that? You are great. And they really are fascinating by the world of hacking as they hear my story. I mean, they see me with I don't know, somebody who is very interesting, and they love to hear my story and know a little bit more about hackers, and the world of hackers that is very underground.
You became a celebrity.
I became notorious. It's like Top Gun. I don't know if you saw that, the scene where Maverick tells the other guy they are in the bar, and Iceman tells Maverick, "Okay, you're famous," and the Iceman told him, "No, notorious," which is a difference. I'm notorious, but I'm incredibly more notorious outside Uruguay than in Uruguay. Uh, my case, thanks to Darknet Diaries and many other appearances, got known by a lot of people all over the world, and it's incredible the support that I get from people that I don't know, but they contact me and they are always giving me support. Always, I mean, it's amazing for me.
Wow. Well, that's good. I'm glad that's coming with it. But all right, so let's talk about your case. So I guess, what is your case? How did it start?
Well, it all started on a spring Saturday in 2014, where I was with my girlfriend, and she asked me to enter to her medical provider site to see a doctor's schedule or something like that. And I entered the site, and I immediately noticed that there might have been a problem there, and I could log in with the username admin and the password admin, with all the administrator privilege into the system of the health provider, and see all the information of the patients, the the money, the stock of medications, the information about the doctors, everything.
You had
So-
pure access to this whole hospital, and the username admin, the password is admin. Like I could just type that in at the time and have all that access.
Exactly. And admin are probably the most used username and password problem that has had been since 1970, and it never changed. The routers, Linksys, for example, they all were shipped in the early 2000s with admin to connect. And a lot of devices have that default password and username. So I just give it a try, and I never expected it would work in a system like that. It's like entering a bank and put it admin and see all the money of the bank. I mean, you don't expect to be successful in something like that.
Then you're like, oh no, let me close that door real quick. Let me take a step back.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I reported that to the CERT of my country, that is the organization that handles all the security incidents in Uruguay. It's an agency from the government. And I sent them an email and I told them, look, in this system, I could access with these credentials. I send them my IP address so they could know if they investigate or something that I access. I mean, I connected from this IP and I could access to this site. And well, they replied to me in 2 hours. It was Saturday, so that surprised me. And they took it very seriously. That was the first thing that happened in my story. But then in 2000, and I forgot about the problem. I guess they solved it. I never checked back if it worked.
Did you ever find what your girlfriend was looking for?
Yeah, no, I couldn't.
Got a little distracted.
But I will tell you something related to that later. In 2015, again, I connected to the site because of my girlfriend. And when you are in front of a site and you have certain experience, you can smell that a system might have some kind of problem, or you can do some kind of thing that can get you some access, or I don't know, you can smell that, you can see that if you have certain experience and practice. And I smelled that there was a huge problem there. So I tried a couple of things and I could realize that without username or password, you didn't need a username and a password. Just entering into an address, a URL, and modifying some parameters, you could browse all the information of the patients, the doctors, the economical information, the medication stock. Again, I sent a report to the CERT telling them the problem with the URLs that you had to modify to access, and that's it. I forgot about that.
Was that part after like this whole prison and admin thing that we'll get into? Like
that was in 2015, and the prison was in 2017. At the end of 2016, I entered again for my girlfriend to the system, and she was looking for a certificate in order to be able to donate blood. She needed a certificate from the system, and well, the system only allowed to make searches with a range of 3 months, and that document could be like from any date. So I modified the source code from the part of the client from me in order to be able to search in a range of 10 years. So I ran that search and the server collapsed, got down. Oh, my God. I'm sorry. Oops. And then, yeah, I couldn't enter. It was like server unavailable. And then after a half an hour, it was up again. But it was my fault. I did collapse the system. It was an accident because I didn't want to be searching 3 months. let's search for 10 years. Okay, now I understand why they put the range of 3 months to control.
It was too much for it to handle. It just crashed.
Yeah, it crashed, absolutely.
Wow.
Imagine the computer processing and looking in a database of, I don't know, terabytes, looking for all that information, browsing all that. It couldn't handle it. And I didn't know that it was so vulnerable in that way, the server. And that was at the end of 2016. On September of 2017, Interpol arrested me. They arrest me and they asked me, "Do you know why you are arrested?" And I said, "No." Well, and they mentioned the name of the medical provider. And then I thought to myself, a relief. I was relieved because I thought, okay, it might be related to something that I reported. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, they might want to ask me questions about my reports, my prior reports. And no, they were interrogating me whether I had access to, and they gave me a lot of addresses which I couldn't recall at all if I had access or not. And at the end, they showed me an email and told me, "Did you send this email?" And it was an email asking for bitcoins, that I was working with bitcoins. Coincidence or perfect for them, in order not to release information they had supposedly stolen from the database of the medical provider.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, they asked for 15 bitcoins, which is 4,000 US dollars. Is right?
It was $4,000 US. Now it's more than $1 million probably.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine. The Bitcoin was at $4,000 at that moment. And I said, "No, I did not send that." And one of the agents told me, "Okay, we have this paper that has your IP address linked to the email." And I smiled at him and told him, "Okay, if you have that, it was sent from my house. I'm guilty, but you do not have that because that's not possible." And then he never mentioned that again.
He bluffed. He tried to get you to confess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he grabbed just a paper blank and told me that. I don't know, but I knew that he was bluffing, and he noticed that I knew that, and he didn't mention it again. And the next day, they came to my apartment to execute the search warrant, and well, they were surprised by all the equipment that they found. That is basically the equipment that any security professional uses. As I told you earlier, hackers or information security professionals, bad guys or good guys, they both know the same things and have the same tools. It's how they use them what makes the difference. And I had the tools to learn to make things good, to protect systems, to research. So I had equipment that, yeah, a bad guy could have, but a good guy also has. And all the people have told me after seeing the pictures, "But I have the same things that Alberto has." It's very common, but they couldn't see that as something, as a possibility that I was working on that with good intentions. They didn't even. I don't know if you know what open source intelligence means or seen.
I don't. What's that?
It's like you search for information of the people on the internet that is available, Googling, or it's public information of the people that you can access on the internet with certain tools such Google Earth, LinkedIn, exactly. They didn't even bother to enter into my LinkedIn account to know my profile. I mean, you have to make a profile of the person you're going to arrest. You have to know what he does. What they saw was a surprise for them, and it shouldn't have been like that. They should have been prepared to see what they saw and the equipment that they saw. But they saw a mask of Anonymous. They saw a lot of credit cards that were all mine.
What was your profile at that time? What was your job?
I was an information security professional that was working for a project in Paraguay, and I was basically trading bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. I was in that business, which for them was they understood. Okay, this guy access to the site had access to the site because I recognized that I had access to the site. It's working with bitcoins. He's the guy. But you know why they came to me? They came to me because on January of 2017 there was an IP address that was mine that was reported that did a sport scan of the server, and that is something that I do with all the sites that I visit. I have a plugin that scans the ports and see what's open, what's not open, but that's just for curiosity. And yes, I probably did a scan port, and that trigger an alert in the system, and it was that sent it to me, but there was no link to the email, no link to any other thing. There was no transfers of information. I mean, I did not connect. I did not transfer any information.
That IP, that's a different one than when you were showing your girlfriend, because you said that was 2015, right?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that my IP was correct, or the connection was correct. And imagine if I would have tried to do something criminal, I would have not connected from my house. I mean, I have 20 years of experience with that. I am connecting to you. I am connecting to you via. I will tell you. Connected via Switzerland and Germany. Right now, we are connected via Switzerland and Germany. I used VPNs to protect myself. If I wanted to do such thing as an extortion attempt of extortion, the first thing is not do it from my house with my IP address, man. That's something. I mean, a person who has 20 years of experience in the field, it's not reasonable, and they didn't question themselves that. And well, one of the officers came to talk to me while they were executing the search warrant and told me, okay, what's better for you is to recognize that you sent the email. Otherwise, we will go to your mother's house and we will do a mess like we're doing here. We're going to arrest her. We're going to go to your girlfriend's apartment. We're going to arrest her. We're going to make them pass a very bad moment. And at that point, I didn't know of what I was being accused. I didn't know whether I had the right of having a lawyer. I didn't know my rights. I didn't know anything, and I didn't know the consequences of admitting that. But I was between, okay, if I don't admit that I send the email, they will hurt the people that I love. And if I admit, I don't know what would happen. I didn't know what was going to happen that was worse than what I thought. But I said, at one point, I was thinking for a while, and I told the officer, okay, I did send the email. Then I was sent to court, and in like very quick, I was sent to prison for declaring that I had sent the email for extortion and access not authorized to secret information. And I couldn't at any point defend myself and explain all the things that could show that technically and in reality, I didn't send anything and there was no link between me and that. But they were yearning to capture a hacker, to be in the press, to make a show with all the things that they found. They put everything of my house in a table with pictures for the media, and they said, okay, we catch a very dangerous hacker. We are the police are very good. We are
Start
trained
clapping.
Yeah. And that's where I learned the hard way that the media, you have to pick to not to believe anything the media says, because things might differ a lot from reality. And well, I was sent to prison. And for me, when they told me that, it was the end of the world. It was like, I have never been in a prison to visit anyone. I have never had, I have only had speed tickets, uh, but I never commit any crime. I never been to a prison. For me, was a word that was unknown. And telling a person that you are going to prison, somebody who is 41 years old and had a life that is like a very good life with everything. You have a beautiful girlfriend. You are economically very good. Everything's going great in your life, and you lose everything in a second. They handcuff you, and you lose everything. And that's when you realize that the most valuable thing that you have is freedom. Losing freedom hurts a lot. And when I lost my freedom, I was holding back the tears. I wanted to cry. I looked at the wall, and I just thought that I wanted to think that I was dreaming, that wasn't happening, because the day before I was having ice cream with my girlfriend by the beach, and the day after I was in prison. I was going to be sent to prison, handcuffed. Uh, my world was over. I wanted to cry, and I thought I won't be able to handle that. I The life is over for me. It was cruel. It was probably the hardest moment of my life.
Wow. And all of this is because you confessed to the crime, but you did that because you were worried about your family.
Exactly. I mean, there is absolutely evidence that links me to the supposed crime. And well, let me tell you something. The email asking for the bitcoins had a little problem. Did not include an address to deposit the bitcoins. So imagine you're asking for a ransom. I mean, I kidnap a person, and I tell you, give me $50,000. Period. Okay, where do I send, where do I send the $50,000? I mean, lacking that information. I mean, I was an expert in cryptocurrencies and bitcoins. The first thing that I would have done was send me to this address the bitcoins, but it didn't have an address. The IP that they have was from my house. The judge said I was very intelligent, so I was a threat for the system, and that's why they sent me to prison. But being so intelligent, I sent supposedly the email from my house with the IP of my house, and I sent the letter without the Bitcoin address to get the Bitcoins. Uh, Something did not make sense, and they didn't question all those details, which for me are obvious. And no, they just wanted to send somebody to prison, close the case, and show the media how good they were.
Wow. That's also like in America, that's the whole reason we have Miranda rights, they're called, is basically you're told you have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to be told what your crime is, like stuff like that. Because so many people would confess to crimes because they didn't realize they had lawyers. Like they thought when they're told they did the crime, they just want like the easy way out. Like if I tell you, I get less of a punishment. Like that's the whole reason we have a law like that in America to prevent people from committing the crimes they didn't commit.
Yeah, and actually, there in the USA, for example, you have all the interviews are at least recorded by audio and also filmed by video. Thing that they didn't do in my case. They didn't record anything. They didn't film anything. Uh, that's that's not correct. They should have recorded the the things that they did, and my interrogation at least. I mean, that's very important.
There no footage of any of that, like the interrogation even?
No, there's no footage of anything, no recording of anything.
Wow. What was the interrogation or any of that like? You said before they had like a fake IP. Like, was there anything else noteworthy?
And no, the thing is that I told you that they were asking me if I access to, well, the name of the provider.com slash hbj01.aspx. And I said, probably, I don't know. Maybe I did access to that. I and one guy there that was the bad guy told me, "Oh, you don't remember? Do you want me to help you to remember?" And I look at him and ask him, "What's your name?" And he laughed at me and he didn't tell me his name, which is is against the law. I mean, if I ask an officer what's his name, he should tell me, but there's no recording of that. So they could have done anything with me and there would be no records.
So I guess also you're a 20-year at the time, like you have 20 years of experience, and then the cops come to your place, but what did they find? Like what made your place look so suspicious?
Basically, the part of the magnetic cards that they were completely sure that I was in the business of cloning credit cards because they found a writer and reader of credit cards and a lot of blank magnetic cards. The thing is that at that point, I was working with a company from the UK that was issuing Visa debit cards that you could charge with cryptocurrencies. And I was working with them, and I had all that equipment to make tests, research, and all related to that shop. But
And
they
were you
didn't
able to
bother.
show, they didn't buy that? Like you weren't able to show that to them?
No, I had no. They just grabbed all the cards. They took them. They didn't ask me anything, and then in the newspapers they said the hacker was also cloning credit cards. I mean, it was an affirmation that civil actions are going to be taken because of that, because they couldn't have told to the press that it was a lack of ethics. They should have review all the credit cards and see, okay, this credit card is cloned, is compromised or not. Uh, they never found any clone credit card, any suspicious credit card. All the credit cards were valid, and there was nothing criminal involved in the equipment that I had. But the credit cards was the thing that for them was like okay, this is a big case. This guy not only did that in the medical provider, he's also a cyber terrorist and he's doing all kinds of crimes with his equipment.
Did they ever find anything else like on anyone else? Like they got the email, but was there any more information that might lead them somewhere else? Like I'm assuming they never found the guy.
Yeah, there basically appeared my IP address in that log where I told you I was port scanning, and they also had another IP address that was linked to another person in Uruguay. That person was arrested, interrogated, and released because he didn't know much about computers. I don't know. I don't understand much, but he was released, and he appeared in the logs as well as I appeared. Uh, I don't know the link. I don't know. Uh, I don't know what happened with him. I only know his name because of the file that I had access to a file and I could see his name. But I don't know the that another thing. If you're going to commit a crime like that, you don't look up for IP addresses connecting from Uruguay. The suspicious IP address should be from outside the country. If you're going to hack a system, you do it like I'm doing now from Switzerland, Germany, and then Uruguay. You pivot the connection by very places, a lot of IP addresses in order to be untraceable, and then you connect. Looking up for IP addresses in Uruguay that both guys that were arrested, me and the other guy, were from Uruguay. They put the eyes on the IP addresses of Uruguay. That was not very smart. I would have checked the connections from outside. I mean, the crime, if it happened, would have been with an IP address from outside Uruguay. I mean, it would have been not been done with my IP address of my house. The letter would have had the Bitcoin address, and I wouldn't have connected from Uruguay either. I mean, that's not the way a hack works. I mean, it was like the opposite. That's how a hack doesn't. You never make a hack like that. I mean, that's in the book of hacking. It says never. This
Rule
is
number
not
one.
yeah, rule number one of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. Yeah, yeah. Rule number one of hacking: you do not connect from your house to send ransom emails.
Yeah, even I know that. I don't know anything about hacking.
Yeah, and after I was released from prison, they came to my house from a TV channel to interview me about my case. They spent 3 hours here. I was showing them everything, and the journalist that was interviewing me told me, "But wait, they say they traced your email to your house and they busted two persons. An IP address is not linked to only one address at the time." I mean, she was able to have that analysis, and she told me, "Wow, this is for you. It's like an humiliation. You should have hacked the NASA of the NSA, but this is for you like humiliating." And well, and that program was never put on the air because they could never contact somebody in the police that would talk about my case and the things that I said in the program. They refused to talk about my case. They tried to contact a lot of people from the police, and nobody wanted to talk about my case. And not wanting to talk about my case says a lot to me.
Oh, that's suspicious. Is like Uruguay, are there polices known for being corrupt? Is
Yes,
that like
there are a lot of corrupt police. The corruption is very common, and yes, uh, that's a problem that we have in the country: the corruption and the lack of controls. I mean, as I mentioned, the lack of recording the interrogations, the lack of filming an execution of a search warrant.
Oh wait, yeah, did they have one? They had one for your apartment?
They had one with the search warrant had my name wrong. It said Alvaro instead of Alberto. The date was September 7 and it was executed on September 10. And well, and the scope was electronic media, but they took anything, the anonymous mask, uh, all the cards, a lot of things that were not electronic media they took. So they did not respect the scope of that. I mean, if you say electronic media, you go and grab electronic media, but that's not the most incredible thing. The most incredible thing is that when I was released from prison and I came to my house, I found 30, 30 hard disk drives in my apartment that they did not take. 30. I also found some credit cards, some magnetic cards, some money, but I can understand if you leave a credit card that is tiny, but you do not leave 30 hard disk drives on the floor of my apartment. That makes me question, was that just a show that they did? I mean, just they had to do that. They didn't care about anything, because that's terrible. It was something that I cannot understand until today.
And they like took other stuff too and like kept other stuff. So like they left that behind, but then they took other stuff of yours and didn't give it back.
Yeah, basically the most valuable thing was a cryptocurrency wallet, hardware wallet, that the judge ordered to return me everything, because after analyzing all the things that they said, they found no evidence of any crime, of any link with anything, any they didn't find anything that was linked to any criminal act. So she ordered to return everything to me. And when I went to pick up the things, they gave me an empty box with that cryptocurrency wallet. Uh, that was hard for me because I had a lot of savings there. Uh, and that's part of the corruption of the police. Uh, that was hard for me. It I got really depressed after that. That was that hurt me a lot.
I don't want to. We don't have to like talk too much on it, but I want to bring it up too that at the time it was 600 bitcoins, right?
No. It was bitcoins that was 29 bitcoins at that I bought at $600 each.
Okay.
Please don't do the math. Don't do the math because I will enter in a deep depression. But we're talking about more than $1 million now.
Okay, sounds good.
No, it doesn't.
No, the opposite. It's the opposite. I mean,
I need to take my antidepressants, please.
I was saying, sounds good for that topic. Like, moving on.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the audience, I just wanted to let the people know the severity of what happened. But the guy, you said what they did was very, like, you're an expert in what you do, hacking, and the IP going to your address is like a rookie mistake. But then that other guy, you said he didn't know much about computers. Maybe he used that as an alibi to get off the hook. But if he doesn't know a lot about computers, could it be that he? I can't swear. He
beep, beep.
Yeah, beep. But he what was I saying? Yeah. So could he have made a basic mistake like that, which is why there was an IP address to his location?
Yeah, they could have made a mistake with that when I mean, first the police in the record said that they thought that I hacked the other guy's wireless network and I sent the email from his network because of that. Man, I can do it from my house with 2 clicks, and then why would I do that and then come to my house and do it from my house? I mean, makes no sense. And the guy said the password of my Wi-Fi connection was my telephone number. And they doxed him because on the media it appeared his telephone number, and that was the password of his Wi-Fi. So the police didn't protect any information. They were terrible. And yes, they made a mistake. The first time they requested the ISP information about the IPs, they make a mistake with the IP linked to me, and then they realized they made a mistake and they ask again. But if they hadn't realized, another person would have been sent to prison.
Wow. I mean, it's unfortunate you were the guy getting sent to prison in the end, but yeah, and you said they were supposed to give you everything back, like once you were released, which because there's no evidence. But how did they arrest you? Was it just without evidence? Like, was it pure your confession?
They arrest me because they came to me because of that IP address at that moment that was linked to me and the confession. The only thing that they have is the confession that I made, thinking, not knowing about the consequences that I was going to be sent to prison for 8 months. And I did it thinking that I could perfectly prove that it was crazy to think that I did that. I mean, for me, it was like, okay, I admit it now, but tomorrow I will clarify this and everything will be fine. I was so naive. Everything was not going to be fine. Everything was going to be terrible.
I heard with the story, things get rough. You get sent to prison. What happened just in prison? Like, so you get sent to prison. What happens after?
Well, entering into prison for me was like being inside a nightmare or a movie, and I was so scared the day I arrived to prison. It was a world I never knew it existed. I was in a cell with 12 other people, and there was not a bed available for me. So the first days I had to sleep on the floor with people that were all criminals. Uh, there was the people in charge of that cell was nicknamed the Bull, and he was like huge with a voice like, oh, that he was like talking, hey, don't worry, we are not going to rape you. And I was like shaking. And he told me, do you want to have a shower? And I said, no. No, you want to have a shower. And I, okay, I will take a shower. I mean, I didn't know any rules or how the codes of the prison. For me was something like they were talking to me in Chinese. The way they spoke, the way they expressed themselves, and everything was like not my world. I was not part of that. I was like trying to adapt myself and survive there, but it was complicated because it was me who had to adapt to that place, not them that had to adapt to me. And I had not the profile of anybody there.
Because these are people that either robbed, sold drugs, murdered, like things like that, and you're set there, rapists. You're set there for computer work.
Yeah, and I was the first hacker sent to prison, so there was no other hacker.
Yeah, so and how do you adapt?
Yeah, and it was funny. The first day that I arrived, the director of the prison said, that guy should be away from any equipment because he's very dangerous. And after 3 months, I gained they trust me so much that I started giving classes of computers to the inmates. I gave classes to 50 inmates, basic of using Windows, and they gave me the key of the computer room. They just told me, you don't have to don't touch that computer that has internet access. That's the only rule. Okay, of course, I was not going to touch that because being in the prison I was a privilege. It was a low security prison, and making having a bad behavior would mean transfer to another prison that might be hell. So I was in a very low security prison, and okay, I didn't touch that computer with internet ever. I just teach about computers to the inmates, and that was it. But it was something good that they trust me, and the police didn't see me as a criminal. The other inmates didn't see me as a criminal. I mean, I was something strange that was there that they couldn't see in what side it was, because I was so mysterious. They didn't know what I was able to do. For them, it was not clear what I did, what I can do, I mean, and I was different from the rest. So you sum up all that, and you say, okay, this guy is there, but it doesn't fit anywhere. I mean, he's unique.
Definitely. Did they think you were like cool or mysterious, like in the movies or something? Like
yes, and so many of them approach me in order to ask me questions. Unfortunately, they ask me most of the time if there were any computer crime that I could commit with their help. They were very curious to know also what crimes can you commit with the computers. And that was very uncomfortable for me, because you are talking to people that most of them are very violent. They change their mood easily, and psychologically they have many issues, and you don't know what to answer when they approach you and ask you something like that, because if you tell them no, there's nothing you can do to commit a crime with a computer, they might get upset, and they might grab something and hit you in the head. uh, the the scenario of a prison is something that might be calm in a second, and in a second can change everything. And I saw many fights. I was not involved in any, luckily, but I saw a lot of violence. And you have to treat with those people, but always you are worried about if you do something, how would they react to that thing that you do.
So how did you answer their questions? Like when they say, "Hey, can you do this?" or "Can you help me do this?"
Wow, I I lied to them. I told them but yeah, honestly I lied. Honestly I lied. It was like a contradiction. No, I told them yes, you can do. I made up some things that were ridiculous, but I tried to make them happy, to make them have good expectations and make them think that they had opportunities. Yeah, I managed the situation that way, lying. I didn't, of course, want to enter in any problem with the justice ever again. There's no way I was going to enter. I have never committed a crime. I was in prison for not committing a crime. There's no way I was going to commit a real crime after that. But I lied to them. I told them what they wanted to hear.
And these people went to jail for like who knows what reasons. If they became black hat hackers, I could only imagine the stuff they could pull. If they had like your knowledge, I can only imagine.
I mean, you are those guys are very intelligent. They are very they can see a person and read the person like so perfect. They know what to say, how to talk to you, to grab information, personal information about you, to know. They ask you questions that for you are have no importance, but they end up knowing your telephone number, the name of your mother, whether you have a car or not. So they grab all that information, and extortion is very common there. Not in that prison, but in other prisons, they grab a prisoner, they make the prisoner call his family, and they ask for money, or they say that they will kill the person. And knowing the telephone number of the person, knowing the name of his family and all that, is all information that they grab, asking you simple questions, but they would be perfect for social engineering. That is a part of hacking. They, when it comes to social engineering, they would be masters, but unfortunately, they would do it surely for bad, not for ethical purposes.
Yeah. So there's book smart and then there's street smart. So somebody who could be a genius in school, like schoolwork education, that doesn't make them a genius in real life. That just means they're good at that. So someone else who isn't good at school can be a genius in like what you just said.
Exactly. And these guys, because they are criminals, doesn't mean that they are very good at any other thing. I mean, they can not only rob something, but they can also do things that uh, very well, things incredible well, that are attributes that could be used in a good way or in a bad way, but they are good at many things.
Wow. Also, with that computer you had access to, did you ever, I mean, it's obviously not worth the risk, but if you wanted to, you literally could have gone on the web and just sort of like done whatever you could have done.
Okay, I will tell you. I think it's not mentioned in my book, but after trafficking of contraband in prison is very common. Drugs are the thing that enter mostly in the prison. The dealing of drugs is a big problem. And well, in the prison, you are able to have incredible a cellular phone without camera and without internet. You can have a cell phone that you register and you can make phone calls without any problem. But there's a black market there where a guy entered smartphones. And after 6 months of being in prison, I couldn't hold myself anymore, and I bought a smartphone in the black market, and I was accessing to the internet from prison. It was stronger than me. I just couldn't stop. I mean, I need internet, please. And I bought a Samsung Galaxy S5, from the black market of the prison.
Wow. I don't blame you. I'd be doing the same thing. I mean, how else do you pass the time?
Yeah, with the risk that if they grab you, you might be transferred to other place. But uh, it was worth the risk. I mean, I wanted internet, I wanted connection.
I talked to somebody a while ago who he like sat down and interviewed. You ever hear of MS-13, the gang?
No.
MS-13, they're really popular in El Salvador. They them in 18th Street, they sort of control the country.
Oh, the gang. It's a gang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
A gang, yeah. And in prison, when like their leaders get arrested or members get arrested, it makes almost no difference how the gang operates because everyone has phones and everyone just uses WhatsApp and stuff like that to just control everything. It's almost like too easy for them.
Yeah, for me it was amazing the way, I mean, with all the controls and all that, how they could enter first drugs, because 90% of the inmates were on drugs, mostly free-base cocaine, which is terrible. I mean, I saw people under the effects of that a lot, and were situations really sad. Then marijuana, which everybody smoked marijuana, and they always had a stock of everything. I mean, if you had the way of payment, you get whatever you wanted. What was most used to pay was that you had the cell phone, and the cell phone normally no. In all the cases are prepaid cell phones. So to pay for the drugs, you charge, you tell somebody outside to put some money on somebody's cell phone to charge it, and then they give you the thing, the drugs or whatever.
Pretty much no trace.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
When you got out of prison or just in general, why don't you join like Anonymous, or why don't you become a black hat hacker, or like why don't you just sort of feed into that and just like make a bunch of money, I guess?
Well, that's a good question. And I was very tempted, and many friends and people asked me about that. It's because when it comes to hacking and information security, before the technical skills, before all the knowledge that you have to have about computers, networks, internet, servers, and all that, above everything, it's ethics. Ethics is the baseline of everything. You have you have to have no ethical dilemmas. You have to know exactly. You have to have clear what your ethics are. And my ethics, I have clear that I would never do something illegal. I would not. After being released from prison, I found several security problems in systems. I just didn't report them, but I didn't hack them and try to get money from that. The problems, I still found them, but I just don't report them. And of course, I don't commit any crime with the things that I found, that I could perfectly do it. And as you said, get a bunch of money.
Wow. And yeah, like, so you found more issues with like other companies, but you don't want to report it because last time you did that, you ended up in prison.
Exactly. Yeah. Shortly after I was released, I found a problem in another medical provider. I took a snapshot just for my ego that I saved that encrypted. That it's like when you're a hacker and you achieve something, you get access to something, you feel the need to have that moment recorded. I mean, approve that you've been there. So a screenshot would work. So I entered the medical provider, took a screenshot, encrypted it. I connected obviously from Taiwan and saved it. And that's it. I closed it and went to my bed to sleep. When in other scenario, I would have reported that.
But now when the cops come with a IP that got sent to you now, they're going to see that screenshot and then boom, that's enough evidence.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrible.
Oh yeah, I don't blame you. While I was listening to the Darknet Diaries, at the very end, the the host of the show says that. He says Alberto found he found another issue with another software, and then it cuts to you saying, "Yep, I didn't report it." And I was laughing for a good minute when I heard that, because
Yeah,
hell no, I
because
wouldn't report that.
yeah, and not only that, because I'm in touch with all the community of hackers and information security professionals here, and most of them, after what happened to me, they do not report anymore. They are afraid of this, of that something might happen to them, and they report them to me. And they ask me, "Hey, Alberto, I found this." And I said, "I don't want to know. No, but what do I do?" And I said, "Shut up." And they told me I don't know, I'm the person who they report to, because I'm like the mentor. I don't know, they see me as somebody who is a reference for them, and know how to handle these kind of things. And for me it's an honor. I feel that, well, I'm recognized and respected, and they don't see me as a criminal. Otherwise they wouldn't come to me. The journalists come to me to ask me for information, support, to explain them things. I appear on the radio, on TV, explaining different things. They trust me. They see me as a person with the competence to talk about the topic that I know. And so does the community of hackers in Uruguay. They respect me, and they come to me looking for advice or to share things with me.
But do you feel like you have to be careful? Like you can't give too much advice, or something might get connected to you? Or do you think you're safe now?
Listen, last weekend, a journalist contacted me. I asked me a question. On Monday, they started to vaccinate the vaccine for the COVID, for
Oh
the
yeah, the
coronavirus.
vaccines. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to register in a system. That system had a problem that I cannot say or disclosure, but I am aware of that. I am aware of a problem that is big, and I cannot say anything. I mean, I can. I if I was like, okay, I want revenge. I don't. I would go to Twitter and post, okay, this is the problem in this site, and you go there and you do this, and you get that. But no, first of all, that would probably be a crime. Or they would build a crime from that. They would find a way to send me back to prison. But it's not the way I am. I mean, I just keep to myself, and I'm very cautious about the information that I handle and that comes to me, especially when journalists get in touch with me. They give me very sensitive information because they have sources that uh, are very important, and what the information they have is are bombs in some cases, are really weapons.
Oh, I saw you tweeted, I think it was today. You tweeted, you know, things that you can't share, but you wish you could, or something like that.
Yeah, I tweet exactly that. Sometimes I feel terrible for the things I know that I cannot say, and it's hard for me. I don't know if it is for fear, for ethics, uh, or for fear of the consequences, but it's hard to cope with that. I tweet that because of that, of those things that I know that you ask yourself. I mean, in certain cases, the people is in risk because of things that you know are having problems. And what do you do? Do you post or release information that is very sensitive and create a huge problem that would eventually cause you a problem in legal terms, just to raise awareness of the problem that there is and it's not being solved? Or you keep it to yourself? If you keep it to yourself, it's hard. I mean, you think, uh, I know that this is wrong, and I cannot say it. I cannot say it. Well, I can say it, but I will not.
I feel like you'd want to say it, but you kind of learned your lesson that if you like with the hospital, if you say something, you get consequences.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. That's right. That's exactly why I made that tweet earlier, because it was all triggered by the journalist that contacted me last weekend regarding a certain problem that it's in my mind, and uh, I want to shout it out, but no, I have to keep it to myself.
I respect that, and yeah, hopefully things work out in that sense. Well, all right, to move it on. Speaking of suspicious, odd stuff, in prison, you said there was a guy that would like come to visit you, and or when you got out of prison, he like followed you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the guy that I told you about that was the bull, el toro in Spanish. He was a huge guy that was enormous with muscles that were huge. Uh, he was next to me all the time, and I first felt like protected because everybody was like didn't want any trouble with him, and he told me come with me, and we were walking in the prison together. So I felt like okay, with this guy next to me, I'm protected. But then things started to I started to realize that he wanted things for me. Then he started asking me to ask my mother to send me cigarettes for him or uh, any of the other stupid thing. I mean, he was using me. He was using his protection in order to gain benefits from me. And he was transferred a month after I was in prison because of bad behavior. But he was next to me all the time. I couldn't get rid of him. It was like a nightmare. I wanted to hide from him, but uh, it was very uncomfortable.
Yeah, he's kind of like blackmailing you. Like, I mean, did it ever get threatening? I guess.
Yes, one time uh, that I don't want to tell the whole story, but yeah, he basically ended up saying, "I will kill you." So, I don't want to talk about that.
All right. When the guy I was talking about, I meant when I heard there was somebody that wanted you to hack into a bank.
Oh yeah, another situation. A visitor appeared out of the blue, and in prison he went to visit me, and well, he ended up telling me that he wanted me to hack a bank because he was in financial problems. He owed a lot of money and he needed me to hack a bank. Uh, and that was terrible pressure for me. I mean, I didn't know what to do, what to say, because again, you don't know who that person is, the power that he might have or not. So again, you try to tell the person what he wants to hear. So I learned to lie a lot in prison. As a way of surviving, I've learned that lying is a good tool. The problem is when you are outside and you meet the people that were inside, and that's an issue that happened to me. People that were with me, they were eventually released and contact me in order to do the business I told them that could be done. Wow. But the case of the bank, yeah, somebody told me to hack the bank. That was terrible. And finally, the directors of the prison found out about that because they could hear all the conversations, and well, they 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 know, they understand pretty well, they read really well the situations, and they contact the prosecutor to report that I was being threatened to hack a bank, and then the man disappeared.
I heard when he came, you had a 1 day a week where you could leave the prison to come back, but then when he came, you like got 3 days a week.
No, that the thing is the story is longer linked to that guy. With good behavior, you can leave prison once a month, 12 hours, then one day, once a month, then the next month, 3 times in a month, 24 hours. Well, the guy that approached me to hack the bank approached me on a Sunday and asked me, how long are you going to be here? I told him, I don't know. My lawyer have applied to get this permission to get outside, but I don't know what will happen or when will they return. On Tuesday, they called me from the office of the prison, and they told me, you have been granted 72 hours a week of being able to leave prison. They called the judge to confirm that, because that's something that nobody ever got. It's something progressive. You get first 1 day, 2 days, but from the first time you get 3 days a week outside is something that they didn't ever saw before. And then the guy that asked me to rob the bank told me, I am friend of the husband of the judge, and she did that for me. And it made sense. It made sense because uh, uh, imagine if he was able to do that. I mean, to get me outside the prison 3 days a week, he might be able to ask the judge to keep me there forever. I mean, I have to rob the bank, or what do? I rob the bank, or I have to deal with the consequences of this man who has contact with the judge. And then the first time that I got up outside, when I was returning to the prison, I was so anxious. I took too many pills of Xanax, and I ended up in hospital. I opened my eyes, and it was like I saw a light, and somebody approached me and asked me, do you know where you are? And I wanted to say no, but I couldn't because I had a tube in my mouth. So I said no with my head, and the person told me, you are in intensive care of the hospital. You have been in coma for 2 hours. Oh, God. It was like one thing was from bad to worse all the time. I was from one problem to another. It was like I had a perfect life until September 9, 2017. Then my world this was like living in hell. And you move to hell, but then you move to another hell that is worse than the hell initially. And it's a story that it's like for a movie. And many people have told me that for a movie, it would be fascinating.
I mean, it's recent, so maybe a movie will come down the road. Fingers crossed.
Yes, I am working on that. That would, not for the money, that would let me show the world and make pressure here to make things change, because they wouldn't be able to resist a movie or a documentary showing the thing that happened. Imagine if the police doesn't want to talk about my case. Imagine if outside appears a movie or a documentary saying all the things that I have said. Okay, something will happen. They will have to change and improve things. That's the main purpose of making a movie or a documentary. I have already written a book, but that my main objective is to get something in video format.
Because it just sounds so rough. Like it's this constant juggling where you have to worry about these inmates, then you have to worry about now they're out of prison, now you have to worry about the court cases, now you gotta
yeah, it was like I was busy all day. I mean, I've never been so easy even working. I mean, I had to deal with so many issues. I have to give classes. I have to go and tell lies to this person. I have to go to the bull next to me and tell him that I tell my mother to send cigarettes. I have to tell this person that we have hack a bank. Oh, God, give me a break.
just like even them balancing the lies. Like, wait, what lie did I tell you again? What was that one?
Like, no, that happened to me, that I didn't remember what did I tell to anyone, because there were so many of them that approached me that I don't know. I should have a notebook and writing down. Okay, I told this to this person.
Wait 1 second.
1 second.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right. It was very stressing. Yeah, and I was busy all the time. I mean, with dealing with all those issues that are part of the life of prison. But so many things that are not normal happened to me, obviously. I mean, I didn't have a regular prison time. I have a particular prison time. Not many people experience what I experienced.
I mean, even to the inmates, you were unique, but you already have such a unique story on top of it.
Yes, absolutely.
And the guy that wanted you to rob the bank, like, so I mean, if somebody's able to pull the strings to give you that benefit in prison, either A, it's a coincidence that he just knows the person, B, he's like government something, or like C, like some other hacker or something. Like, I don't even know.
What my lawyer told me is that the police tells people that certain criminals are in certain parts in order to get a profit. So what he told me was that probably a police contact this guy and said, okay, we have a hacker here, come visit him and see what you can get. That's what my lawyer told me, that the police told this guy about me. The fact that he told me that he was a friend of the judge husband, I don't discard that. I will never know. I will never know, but was scary.
Do you ever feel the urge to like sort of hack to find out anything, like do your own research to see if you can find out who someone like him or someone else is?
Yes, I did. I look up all his financial information, and had the worst credit score in all the banks. He owed $200,000. He was desperate to get money because he got money from people that lend money in the black market. I mean, they lend you money, and if you don't pay, they cut you a leg, they cut you a finger. So he go there to get money, and he was afraid that they will kill him or his family. So he showed me that he was desperate, and I had to have the bank to save his life. Basically, that was the pressure that he was putting on me. If you don't have the bank, they will kill my family and me. So another issue to handle. Please give me a break.
Yeah, especially because desperate people will do desperate things.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, if I say brutal, that's not doing that justice of how brutal that is. Like, wow. I don't know. So what kind of, you said like you want more tension, so they'll have to do something. Like, that's why a movie would be cool. But what kind of change, or what do you want to see done to fix the situation?
Yeah, I want to make a change in the way computer crimes are investigated in Uruguay. And I am contacting people from the information security group of Uruguay in order to present proposals in order to make those changes. That's what I'm doing. My case isn't closed. I have no sentence. I am out on a bail. It's been 3 years and I have no sentence. I am in house only because I had the money to pay for the bail. If I didn't have the money, I would still be in prison. And I ask myself, is that justice? I mean, if I have money, I can go home. If I don't have money, I have to stay in prison. That is not justice. That I understand that, Justice is just a beautiful word, but nothing more than that. Justice does not exist. Justice is depends on who you are, how much money you have, who you know. That is justice. That's what I learned from that. Uh, that was cruel because I was thinking, what if I didn't have the money to pay for the bail? That was $10,000 bail, which was ridiculous high. And nobody probably in prison would have that money to pay for that. And imagine if they tell you, okay, you can leave if you pay the bail, or you have to stay if not. The frustration, the pressure you can get for not being able to be released because of not having the money, it's terrible.
How long was your sentence for? How long would you be in there till?
No, I had no sentence. I was in preventive prison because the process is ongoing, and I have no sentence. I have no sentence.
So you don't know how long you would be in if you didn't have the $10,000.
No, exactly. All I know is found guilty or not guilty, I will not return to prison because the crime is not paid with prison time. Even if found guilty, I would have, I guess, a kind of probation. But I had already paid for that probation for 3 years. So if I am found guilty, it's like I will be completely free because I have already paid for everything.
That just sounds ludicrous. So they could find you not guilty of the crime and then say you didn't have the 10,000 bails, be like, oh, I spent these 4 or 5, who knows how many years in prison, and you found me not guilty of the crime. So there goes that many years of my life for no reason. And then if you're guilty, this still counts as your time served. So literally, if you're guilty or not guilty, you get the same punishment.
Exactly. It makes no difference. It makes no difference. Uh, it's a situation very particular. I if I found guilty or not guilty, for me it's the same. My life continues the same. Luckily, because if I had to return to prison, I don't know. I really can't imagine having to go back to prison because really the freedom is priceless and is the most valuable thing that we have for me. That I learned that because when I lost my freedom, I felt I lost everything. And losing that again would be just too hard. I mean, I had to deal with so many things. Well, human beings adapt to every situation, but it would eventually destroy me. I'm human. I have lived a lot of, I can't swear, but complicated situations. Uh, I, I am human. I will eventually be destroyed. I mean, my energies are going down. I mean, no, I don't think what will happen if I have to go back to prison. I can't imagine.
Just because humans could survive in like any situation doesn't mean you have to, you should survive. You should be able to live versus survive.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about a good place to wrap for the podcast. Is there any final message or any final point you want to tell the audience?
Yes. I would like to, well, in general, I don't know what's the profile of the people that hear the podcast. I think there are all kind of people, right?
Yeah, mostly 18 to like, I think it's 34-year-olds, but it hits most age groups.
Okay, if you are in computers and you are curious, first review the laws that applies to computer crimes and know before doing anything, be aware that you might be committing a crime. So think before doing anything with your computer. Be aware of the dangers of social networks with your kids, with your children. Take care of them. It's a very complicated and dangerous place, the social media for the teenagers, for the kids that might meet strangers, that it's full of predators that can get in touch with your kids. So be careful with that. Be aware that the internet is full of scams, bad people, criminals. Don't trust anyone. Just be careful when you use the internet. That's my message for the listeners. And follow me on Twitter. Hey, Daniel Hill. It's my Twitter account.
Sounds good. I'll put a link for that Twitter account in the description too. But actually, yeah, if really quickly, if you don't mind me asking, what I mean, as being a well-known hacker, can you tell a little bit about the dangers of like say Facebook or TikTok or anything like that? Anything specific?
Yeah,
Interesting topic.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Basically, I don't have Facebook, for example. The invasion of your privacy is huge. You give too much information about yourself in Facebook, for example, that it's Facebook has, for example, the largest database of facial of photograph of people that can be used for facial recognition. If you post a picture of that you take in Facebook, that picture can tell with the metadata your economical social status, can tell a lot about you. So the information they grab for you from you, it's a lot, and it will be used for you for marketing purposes, for any other purposes. I don't know if you heard about Cambridge Analytica.
I haven't, no.
Well, it's a company that was hired by Donald Trump to manage the election where he was elected, and the company did a profile of all the people that were not sure of who to vote, and they were sending fake messages, target publicity in order to make them vote Donald Trump. They made profiles of 50 million people. They had the profile, so they could know, okay, you have the doubt of who to vote. Okay, we will send you this image, this ad that is false probably, talking, saying a lie about the other person. And that's what they grab the information from Facebook, from Twitter, and even the owner of Facebook had to go to the Congress to declare about that. So you are giving too much information that is not necessary for you to give, and what you put on the internet stays on the internet forever. Even if you delete it, it's there forever. Wow. So be careful. Another message for the young people: be careful with what you post, because maybe in a future, if you're going to find a job, you can have trouble if you posted something not appropriate when you were young. So what's on internet, it's on the internet forever. Be careful with that.
Sounds good. Definitely gotta be careful. That story sounds like pure propaganda, where it's just like what they did with, like, say, the Cold War or even like World War II. Take the data, they'll take all your information and just pure market to you and sell to you. You become, if I was told this the other day, if you're using something for free, that's because you are the product. Yep.
Yeah, you are the product. If something is free, the product is you. And well, we accept that. I mean, when we use Gmail, we're accepting that Gmails. I mean, I wanted to go to Amsterdam 2 years ago, and I was getting emails of tickets to Amsterdam all the time with lowest price, lowest price. I mean, Google Gmail is free, but it's not free. You are the product. That's correct. That's a good phrase, and it's reality.
Sounds good. Well, again, for the audience, Alberto Daniel Hill. And yeah, again, Alberto, thank you so much for coming out to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation, and it was a pleasure for me to be here.
I'm glad to hear. And this is FM 91.7, WHUS Stores at the top of the hour. And as always, deuces.
This has been The Way Podcast. If you want to know more about The Way Podcast, go to podcasttheway.com.